On our universe, there are several mysterious things. This may be one of them. The shocking truth behind Andromeda Galaxy. Hello and welcome to Z. Stay with us to know more. Don't forget to subscribe our channel. There are trillions of stars, planets, and galaxies in space, most of which even our most advanced space technology hasn't been able to capture yet. But about 2.5 million light years away from planet Earth, there's a spiral galaxy that can actually be seen by the naked human eye. In fact, it's one of the most distant objects in space that we can actually see with our own eyes completely unaided. The Andromeda Galaxy is one of the most well-known galaxies in astronomy, only to our own Milky Way. Despite being so close to us, the Milky Way is one of the easiest to detect in the night sky if you know where to look. Just a few centuries ago, scientists had no idea that our spiraling neighbor existed at all. Initially, Andromeda was thought to be just another one of the millions of so-called nebulae in space, with little significance at the time. The earliest known account of the galaxy appears in the year 964 in a book called The Book of the Fixed Stars, which was authored by Persian astronomer Abd al-Rahman al-Sufi at the time. French astronomer Charles Messier mentioned it in his famous catalogue De Nibilis de Amiditois, a catalogue of astronomical objects to be on the lookout for at the time, because Messier himself wasn't so interested in them as he was busy comet hunting. Little did he know that in listing out all the non-comet objects that seemed to frustrate his hunt for comets, he had already discovered something of far greater significance. The alleged nebula M31 was also included in the great argument over the extent of the universe between astronomers Herbert D. Curtis and Harlow Shapley. Curtis believed that the spiral nebulae, such as the Andromeda Nebula or Messier 31, were actually completely different galaxies, and that the Milky Way was just one galaxy among many. Shapley, on the other hand, strongly disagreed, claiming that the nebulae were simply spiral pockets of gas and that there were no galaxies, just the universe that is the Milky Way. As we know today, Shapley's arguments did not. Our perception of space and what lies in the great skies above was extremely limited until the 20th century. Hubble's curiosity led him to the Mount Wilson Observatory in California, right to the world's largest telescope at the time, the 100-inch Hooker telescope. Here, Hubble used the telescope to observe faint fuzzy cloud-like patches of light that were then broadly labeled as nebulae. When he turned the Hooker using this technique, he studied other so-called nebulae in the region and was surprised to find that there were actually millions of galaxies that existed beyond our own, perhaps for the first time ever, proving just how much is out there and how little we know. It took years and years of data collection, observation, and discussion to uncover that a giant spiral galaxy similar to our own was sitting just a few light years away, staring right back at us the entire time. The Andromeda Galaxy is a barred spiral galaxy located around 2.5 million light years from Earth in the constellation Andromeda, formerly known as Messier 31 or even NGC 224 at times. Along with the Triangulum Galaxy, which is 2.7 million light years away, and our own galaxy is one of the closest galaxies to our own Milky Way. In terms of size, it is the largest galaxy in the local group, which consists of around 30 galaxies. To put it into perspective, our galactic neighbor is significantly larger than our own galaxy, with a diameter of 220,000 light years. The Milky Way has a diameter of approximately 100,000 to 175,000 light years. The galaxy itself is thought to be at least 10 billion years old, having formed through the merger of several smaller proto-galaxies over the eons. The mass of the Andromeda Galaxy has always been thought to be significantly much larger than the Milky Way, but recent data has shown that this isn't really the case. After all, the two galaxies in fact share similar masses despite the difference in size. When observing the Andromeda Galaxy, the best chance that a planet has of being able to sustain life is if it is located within the Goldilocks zone, also known as the habitable zone of a star system. Perhaps with advances in optical lensing and other technological advancements, as well as future missions, we will soon learn whether Andromeda hosts any habitable planets of its own. But what makes it so interesting is that it is so close to our Milky Way. Collisions between galaxies are not a new phenomenon in space. In fact, collisions between planets, asteroids, galaxies, and other nebulae are probably happening right now as you read this, but they're probably so many light years away that it makes little to no difference to us here on planet Earth. There are several types of collisions as well, with gravitational collisions between galaxies being one of the most fascinating. Some stars will be flung out of their galaxies, while others will be annihilated when they collide with the merging supermassive black holes. The delicate spiral architecture of both galaxies will be dramatically transformed as they merge to form one giant elliptical galaxy. The mergers of the two galaxies will give birth to a brand new galaxy and a slew of new stars as a result of the cataclysmic collision. Larger galaxies often preserve the most of their structure and features, but much smaller galaxies are entirely stripped apart and absorbed by the larger ones. Though we may not realize it, our galaxy is hurtling through the universe at 1.3 million miles per hour and is destined to collide with its neighbor, the Andromeda Galaxy. While the two spiral galaxies are currently at a happy safe distance of around 2.5 million light years, that won't be the case for long. The Andromeda Galaxy is hurtling towards us at 68 miles per second, which, while on Earth may appear fast, in reality the collision of the two galaxies will take time and will result in the birth of many new stars. The two supermassive black holes at the centers of the galaxies will most certainly merge with each other as well. What's incredible about this collision is that we've known about it for over a century now, beginning in the 1900s when the wonderfully named astronomer Vesto Slipher predicted that the Andromeda Galaxy was heading straight for our very own Milky Way. Since then, telescopes and observatories all over the world have been monitoring and collecting whatever data they can on our spiral neighbor to see if there's anything we can see to give us a hint. How was it that Edwin Hubble himself finally established that the Andromeda Nebula was no simple splotchy blob of whatever, but in fact an entire galaxy of its own? And here we are years later using the telescope named after the great astronomer to yet again confirm that same galaxy's fate by the time that happens, though it's unlikely that humankind, at least in its current form, will be around to witness one of the greatest events ever to occur in our neck of the woods, because these halos are so. Finding them is incredibly challenging. A group of astronomers recently studied Andromeda's halo and were surprised to discover that its halo is actually much larger than previously thought. This has led them to believe that the halos of both galaxies are already touching and merging at the edges, pulling and tugging on each other. From our vantage point, it's extremely difficult to know and measure our own galaxy's halo, but given their relative similarity in size, it's safe to assume, although M33 will not be joining the merger itself, it is believed that at some point due to gravity, the Milky Way will be engaged in a great cosmic dance with both Andromeda and M33, the stars in both galaxies will be affected by the merger, with some being thrown into a completely new orbit around the merging center. Though we may not be around to see it, it sure is fascinating to know what this unusual collision produced shell features that are not unique to NGC 474. In fact, an estimated 90% of all known elliptical galaxies have these features, which could provide astronomers with a huge clue about their formation in previous collisions and merges between galaxies and what we can expect for our own. Thank you for being with us.